but they always remember the sticker. They always remember the stamp. That is not random. That is a habit that they have developed and almost created a muscle memory around of when it gets close to this time, my body senses it's sticker time. So what we want to do is how many of those habit loops can we create within our classroom so that they really feel like they are having their own autonomy within your room, again, versus you're just directing them all the time. Today, we are going to be talking about the brain and brain-based learning. As you can probably tell, I am very excited about this episode. Reason why is the last decade or so of me teaching this age group, there has been nothing more that has given me support and clarity on why things have worked this way. Why have they not? Why do I feel inclined to take that action or teach that way? Or why is that kid acting that way? Or why are all kids acting this way? It has given me answers to then be able to develop curriculums and develop new tools that are actually going to support the classroom, support me, and support the kids to thrive within my room. So we're going to start with talking about the development phases that the kids' brains go through. We're going to start with the sensory motor stage. This is where they really utilize their 5 senses to gain an education and gain an understanding of their surroundings. So this happens between their birth to age around 3. What happens is all of their synapses in their brain start to connect and start to make connections with each other. The lack of sensory stimulation may cause a lack of synaptic connections to happen. And as crazy as it sounds, that cannot be rebuilt over time. So this phase is very, very important to take advantage of because they're not able to get that back as they get older. So as you can expect, sensory learning and play is a great way to support this stage. A 3-year-old's brain is more active than an adult brain, which I find so interesting. They learn the quickest and the most volume compared to what we can as adults. So we want to be very picky, but also set them up for success in this way. And again, sensory learning is the way to go and to support this phase of sensory motor phase. After the sensory motor phase, we're going to be moving into the pre-operational phase. Now, this is where it kind of starts to overlap. This starts in ages 2 and goes all the way up to actually ages 7 and 8. This is where they start to create logic and reasoning, the ability to think symbolically and focus on something in a short term and in a long term. Ages 4 to 12, they are still within this phase. This is where cells continue to grow, but it's also when dendrites in their brain reach out and create neural connections. This is when the brain really starts to pick up the pace. The different speed that they also have helps when they get to the older ages because their information starts to stack onto one another. So just like I said, how a 3-year-old is really firing fast, as they get older, they gain more information and they use that information to stack on top of each other to build more connections, and their brain is making those same connections and building that memory of that information as well with that long term. They also get to take advantage of this much more as their motor development also increases at that age. Now, again, with their long-term and short-term focus, focusing is a practice that can be practiced and that should be practiced. So we're going to get into that in a moment of how we can support them with learning how to focus. Collaborative verbiage, activities, and rewards are a great way to support the pre-operational phase. 6 ways that we can encourage and work with the brain development. I'm going to go through this list. We can take turns, working with a partner or a group, creative conversation, using stories and characters and analogies within your learning, working with them on what they might actually be feeling. For example, Sarah says she doesn't like to do chassés across the floor. actually might be happening is that she is just straight up bored. So what I might offer to that child is, are you bored? Or are you hungry? Or do you actually just want to go see mom? Or is this tricky right now and you're struggling with the challenge of that? Let's work together to make you feel better about that. Let's work together on, you know what? It's okay to be bored sometimes. Or, you know what? I know you want to go see mom, but we're going to see her at the end of the class and you're being very brave and cooperative by staying in the room. This allows them to make the connections that they are feeling and then to be able to express that in an appropriate way to where then it doesn't start to turn into a manipulation on them, but then you're also showing them that I'm with you and I got it. And another big way to support brain development is consistency within your structure of your room, within your day, within your curriculum. If you did not see my first episode on how to manage a class, I would highly recommend going and doing that. But creating a consistency is where kids thrive because they know what to count on. And when they can count on something and they can feel safe in the environment that you are displaying for them, that's when they can explore. And that is where kids learn, is through exploration and trying new things. So you need to be able to set up a system that they can explore appropriately. A way that I like to create consistency and structure is by following a same flow every class so that the kids know what to expect and that there's no surprises. They know how to be involved in the class because they know what's going to happen. So for example, every class starts within a circle. And for most of my younger preschool ages, we start by sitting on a dot. So they have an action to take advantage of as soon as they get into the room. But they know we go into this room, we start in a circle. So I can already start implementing my actions and doing that in a way that I see fit to create that. After we go into our circle, which is a group and close proximity structure, I then move into a song, a directional song that will allow them to take the dots, put them in a specific spot, and then we'll direct them into our next activity, which will be a little bit more, not in a particular space, but more spread out. The engaging of moving the space, looking at different things, we're involving their sensory motor. That will allow learning to happen as well as keeping them engaged, which will then allow them to learn more. Following that, we go into a more structured shape. Hopefully now we are rocking and rolling and locked in, so we can do something that requires a little bit more intricacy within our learning. Immediately after that, I will transition into my song of Meet Me at the Waiting Mat and continuing. As I do that, I get out a waiting mat. They know that this is the waiting mat. So whether I choose one mat, the blue mat all year, that once they see that mat come out, they know we are moving into a different activity. We know it is going to involve taking turns. We know that is involved. We are going to be sitting or taking place on this mat for the time being until we hear our next direction. So again, consistency. They hear this song. They see the blue mat. They make the connections of what the action is supposed to be. So we have the elements of the circle, the movement of the song, that we thought what thing we do across the floor, the waiting on the mat. The actual specifics of what we might do in all those can adjust as the year goes on or adjust as the age, but the structure of the class is something that they know. The bones of the class are something that they can count on every single time they come into that room. The next segment that we're going to be talking about are creating habits and resiliency. What we're going to be talking about is very cool to me, not because it is only a great tool to teach kids and develop their brain, but it is also the same system that will work and continue as we move into our adult lives, or if we are already in our adult lives. So if you are listening to this next segment and you think you could benefit from having more stability in your life, confidence in your wants and outcomes, your overall mental health, I am here to support you with this next segment. Ways that we can develop a habit. I have 3 steps for how our brain actually does this. We want to create a cue. We want to create an action for how that is going to happen. And then we want to have a reward. That is how our brain creates a pattern. This happens in the part of our brain called the basal ganglia. That is a specific part of our brain only designated, this is really cool, it is only designated to create habits. The reason why our brain has that and why it's putting such an important role on that is because if we can create habit loops and we can create these tools and systems, that's how we evolve. So this is where the importance of habits can come into play. For example, most kids struggle with listening or following directions. So what we want to do is we want to create a habit around those things that we want to get them to do versus it just being a constant us telling them what to do and then them needing to take an action. Where I can give you some evidence of maybe where this works is most preschool dance classrooms. I guess I don't know how school system works, but we end with a reward, whether that's a sticker or a stamp or a coloring sheet. Typically, no matter how crazy or unorganized the classroom was, they always know at the end of this class, I get this. And they never forget. That is not because they like that. There's a lot of things in the classroom that they like. There's certain games that they like and activities that they like, but they always remember the sticker. They always remember the stamp. That is not random. That is a habit that they have developed and almost created a muscle memory around of when it gets close to this time, my body senses it's sticker time. So what we want to do is how many of those habit loops can we create within our classroom so that they really feel like they are having their own autonomy within your room, again, versus you're just directing them all the time. So, for example, with my classrooms, I want the kids to know that we always are going to start in a circle. So, if I'm wanting to create a habit loop around that, I need to follow my 3 steps. So, again, we have our cue, we have our action, we have our reward. So, my cue to them is going to be when you come into this room, immediately you know that there's a circle action that's going to be had. So I will either set up that cue in their head by being at this is also age dependent, being at the door and having my set of colorful dots in my hand and going, okay, grab whatever color dot or grab the dot on top of the pile and go set it out in a circle. That, of course, is for our older age group, maybe more kindergarten age. I'm not expecting a 2 or 3-year-old to grab a poly dot and create a circle. But I may set up the circle with the dots so that they know when I enter the room, I'm going to see a circle on the floor and I'm going to sit on my dot. The action, the how that is going to happen. Again, I'm going to use the poly dots. They will sit on top of the dots. So when they first enter the room, they are taking action. And then we are going to do our first activity in a circle so that they know when I go and sit on this dot, this is what happens. We do our question of the day, or we do our listen up song. Then we will have a reward to instill the positivity of creating that loop. Our brain is looking for rewards. So if we get a reward for an activity, they're going to go, ooh, I'm going to remember that so that I can create that same action to then get the reward. This is a positive thing. So my reward for that ages 2 to 5, I'm going to use their motivation system of they are in what I like to call that little helper phase. So they just want to impress you and they want to be your little helper. So their reward could be as simple as, thank you guys so much for sitting in this circle, or you did a great job of creating the circle, or thank you so much. By listening so well, can I have one of you pick up all the dots? Or can I have one of you help with this next activity? That will then signal whatever just happened in the circle was good. Creating the circle, sitting in the circle, doing this action was a positive behavior that I want to participate in again because I got this reward. This will then create what I like to call the habit loop, like I have been talking about. This allows that pattern to occur with less effort and less thought in the future. This can be replicated in any way for a child or your student or even you. So if you would like to create a habit or a new tool or a new system of living, this is how you can go about it. Now let's get into the resiliency aspect of it. We're going to get into microsucks. You can look it up. This is actually what it's called. This is something I talk about a lot when it comes to adult behaviors, but it is very important when it comes to children as well. A microsuck is something that challenges you physically or mentally, but in a very small amount or a micro amount. This is basically a workout for your willpower. Now, this is a connection to your brain it's called your anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Say that 5 times fast. Your anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or easier, your AMCC. This is the part of your brain that you are actually working out and developing and strengthening. It is not just made up in your mind. If you do microsucks and you practice doing things that are a little bit more challenging or out of your element, you are strengthening that part of your brain that you are then able to take advantage and handle more challenges. Fun fact, your AMCC, or the part of your brain that handles this, typically is larger in very, very high level athletes. People that love adversity, love challenges, and thrive off of that and punch through every adversity that comes in their way. That's how they can start to develop new and crazier levels of themselves and in life, because they are implementing the microsucks. Now, besides just being able to handle hard stuff, that part of your brain is also allocated to a lot of other functions that we use and that our students will need. Things like higher level functioning, such as attention allocation, reward anticipation, decision making, impulse control. So, for example, performance monitoring and error detecting. They know, oh, when I did this, it didn't work. And then their ability to be able to understand why and how to fix it. That's where this comes into play. And as well as having more emotional intelligence and having the confidence to be able to handle those things. Having a strong AMCC helps you understand error, being able to see your negative patterns, and then how to work on it. The reason that I think this is so important is nowadays, the mental health of kids is something that we can every day work on, and something that, in my opinion, is one of the very cool responsibilities of being a teacher and an educator. And why I even want to have an episode on brain development is it's not just how they learn, and it's not just how they educate themselves, but it's also how their sense of focus is. It's how their sense of anxiety and their ability to determine how they want to move forward and how they want to handle tasks. This is something that we can implement to, again, have a workout for the willpower, but have a workout for them to be able to develop that part of their brain that is able to give them this exploration, this exposure to positive behaviors that are already going to be installed in them. Cool study with this. People that has shown that has a larger AMCC typically have much lower levels, if none, of anxiety, ADHD. It also shows that they have a strengthened ability to believe in themselves more and be able to handle more things, and think that they are able to achieve higher outcomes of whatever activity that they are going to be involved in. This is why, if you ever hear me teach, I very regularly promote being tough, and that being tough is a superpower. Whether we are struggling to learn a new skill, whether we are trying to show up fully in a class in the way that we want, or that day, we are working out and giving ourselves tool to be able to handle a greater number of feats moving forward. This not only increases our actual tools and ability, but it increases our self-trust, which I kind of feel like is a role that we have as teachers, to be able to give the kids tools to be able to do that and learn how to do that moving forward. What I have noticed, whether it's in the school system or the dance industry or parent standards, is we are trying to have kids excel or be ready for that next level, or even surpass the level that they are at. The biggest piece that I think we are missing, and what I hope this episode highlights, is that if we educate and we nurture and we guide kids to thrive in the appropriate categories and manners, we are building and developing their brain at the place that they are ripe for, which will then in turn have them be ready for that next level when that time comes and when their development is ready for that. So with that being said, maybe give yourself a good job or even a little reward for furthering educating yourself on brain-based learning by watching this video. And I would love if you would please offer that opportunity to other parents and educators by sharing this video. And let's together help build kids to thrive.